and he's grinding, getting like 7 kills, 8 kills a game, like really, really making it hard. But still, somehow, I'm just closing the gap little by little.
Greetings, gamers, and welcome to the 4th installment in the Dark and Darker Player Profile series here on the Arcane Armor channel. In this episode, we have Ken Kanabi, aka the Wizard King. He'll join us for a campfire chat, and I'm going to forgo the usual lengthy introduction because we have a chance to talk about all of Nate's accomplishments right up front in this video. But suffice to say, he has been a wrecking ball in the dungeon since the day he started playing the game. I mean, just look at this dude. I feel like Cloud from Final Fantasy and Trent Reznor had a baby. For those of you in the younger crowd, Nine Inch Nails is a 90s industrial rock band, and Trent Reznor was their frontman, and he was a total badass. Anyway, Nate and I had a fantastic discussion, and I think you guys will really dig it. Let's get to it. Welcome, everybody, to the stream. We have less than 5 days until the next playtest. The hype is building, and there's a developer interview tonight, as a matter of fact, later, that we might try and catch, depending on how long we go. We might even watch Jay watching One Peg. We'll see, and go for the full Inception play. But more importantly, I am joined tonight for a campfire chat with our honored guest, Nate, aka Ken Kanabi. And I have...
Hello.
I have been guilty in previous streams of mispronouncing your name as Ken Knobi. How often does that happen to you, sir?
About 100% of the time. But that's my fault for having a bad name. That's on me.
So where did that originate from? Where'd you get the name?
Just in games in general, I've always had some variation of the word knob in my name. Like I was Noblin Slayer, Nob Stark, Calvin and Knobs. And then this came out, it turned out to be Kanabi.
Calvin and Knobs.
And this is the one that I'm going to stick with. You know?
I like it. So have you always been into RPG / fantasy role-playing type games, dungeon crawlers?
I mean, I play all types of games, but I do prefer the fantasy genre. And if you could add hardcore elements on top of that, you know, I'm in it. I love fantasy, I love hardcore, I love full loot games, stuff of that nature.
So I guess I should give you the more formal intro here. Keep me honest as I go through this, because you got a long list of accolades I got to read off here. Playtest 1, you were the #1 wanted murderer for Wizards.
For Wizard.
Player 2 and Playtest 2 in November. You were the #1 wanted murderer for Wizards again with 838 kills. And then the #2 escape artist as well, I believe. In December, season 1, #3 escape artist, #4 killer overall, #2 just behind Jay on wizard kills, #6 treasure collector, #11 veteran adventurer, all season 1 of Playtest 3 in December. And then apparently without trying, you somehow broke the top 30 for kills in season 2.
I didn't even look at the season 2 kill boards until literally today, and I was surprised to see myself on there because I was so busy with holidays and family.
Yeah.
I didn't really get to play too much, but somehow still get on the list.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
That's pretty sweet, man. So congrats for all the accolades, for sure. Very glad to have you. Excited to talk about the upcoming playtest and really even the current state of the game, if we consider it current state before any Playtest 4 announcements or updates. One of the things I want to get into is class balance, but before we do that, you as a content creator, I thought are kind of interesting. So you're on Twitch pretty frequently, it seems like. You've been streaming on there. You've got a good setup going. Your YouTube videos, however, never show your camera. And I was curious about that. Like, is there a strategy behind it, or was that kind of unintentional?
Sometimes I show my cam on YouTube, but the reality is when I'm streaming on Twitch, I'm also recording via Shadowplay, and I'm not picking up my my cam when I'm doing instant replay on Shadowplay. So it's just a convenience thing.
I gotcha.
If I'm pulling from like my Twitch VODs, obviously I'll show my cam. I have no I'm not shy. I don't want to hide my face or anything, but it also makes it easier in editing when you're just working with the footage
Yeah,
and not have to worry about a camera and stuff.
that's true.
But let the gameplay speak for itself when I'm making these Dark and Darker related content.
Right on. So speaking of other games, on Twitch, you've been notorious for streaming League of Legends, Tarkov, CSGO, Mordau, Mortal Online 2, maybe. What am I missing?
I play a lot of games. I don't really like League of Legends. I feel like I just play it because I'm addicted. And
You're
and
probably not
I
the only
don't
person to say that. I had about a 3-year addiction to that game.
yeah, I don't think the game's that good, but I'm addicted to the ranked ladder. And I'm guilty for that with any game. If you give me a good competitive structure in a game, even if your game isn't that good, I'm just gonna play the hell out of it because I wanted to see myself climb the ladder
Yeah,
as high as I can go. And Dark and Darker, I mean, they gave me a leaderboard, so they give me something I could really bite into and go for.
right on. So you're not going to be in the non-competitive lobbies in any of those games, then I take it.
I do. I dabble because I have a lot of friends that I play with, and not all of them could get into the high roller lobbies. So I still want to spend time and play with them, but whenever I can, I'm definitely grinding the high roller lobbies.
So out of all those games I just rattled off, non-Dark and Darker games, which one was your favorite to stream until Dark and Darker existed?
The stream, I like streaming Mortal Online too when I was playing that game, just because it's an open world sandbox MMO. And when you stream in a game like that, you get a lot of stream snipers that want to come kill you, and that makes for very fun interactions in game, especially when like the stakes are high with full loot and all that stuff.
Right. What about to play? So that's stream. What about play overall?
If I'm just playing games, there's so many games that I play. If you name a game, I've probably played it, but probably like some of my favorite games I'm playing currently are probably like Escape from Tarkov or Path of Exile. Probably my top two at the
Nice.
moment, besides Dark and Darker, obviously.
I am not aware of the current state of Path of Exile. Justin, who's in the chat, got me into that a long time ago in its infancy, and it was very rough around the edges, but it looked like it had a ton of potential. I remember the skill tree just being massive and trying to figure out how you were going to build your character. It was like infinite possibilities in that game.
Yeah, I've been playing Path of Exile for 10, 11 years at this point, and I still feel like I haven't even experienced 50% of the game.
Jeez.
It's crazy the amount of depth in that game. It's awe-inspiring. Also because they have a game mode in Path of Exile, which is called Hardcore, which is if you die playing in the hardcore mode, your character is gone. You got to restart.
Yep.
And I love stuff like that, and it keeps it super fresh and really hard.
Yep. That's pretty cool. What about Dragon Age Origins?
Ooh, never played Dragon Age.
Dragon Age was fun.
Never touched that one.
That was good.
You're a Dragon Age guy?
For a minute, yeah. So 2000, I don't know, 8, 9, right before Skyrim came out, I think I was playing Dragon Age and enjoying it. Went on a Steam sale or something and picked it up.
Yeah, one of my best friends is like obsessed with Dragon Age. He has like the Dragon Age keyboard and like t-shirts and sweatshirts. He's all about it.
There's some really cool
I can never get into it.
I don't think I'm right.
Crazy color.
I don't think it was Steam. I think it was another platform. Was it the Origin? It must have been the Origin client. But at any rate, yeah, man, that game was really, really cool. It was at least somewhat unique in the way that they handled combat, and it was really cool because you could zoom in and out of these battles and coordinate. Like, I mean, you're controlling 4 different characters all at the same time, and you could really, I mean, it was almost Final Fantasy-esque, but fully 3D with better art and, well, maybe not better, just different style of art. And yeah, really allowed for some interesting tactical gameplay. It was pretty cool.
You know, it looks really cool. I could just never get into the like the single player story driven games. If it's not like multiplayer, if I can't like interact with enemy players or be competitive, it just doesn't scratch my itch. Not to say like those games aren't good, it's just not for me.
So what are some of the other elements that you feel like make a good game in general? We just rattled off quite a few there. You mentioned the competitive aspect, having a good ladder, having a way to climb and grind is super important to a lot of people, I'm guessing, that play Dark and Darker. What are some of the elements that you feel like are kind of common to all games that are really good?
I mean, there's a lot of things that different people consider fun, but what's fun to me in video games is like I love a good ladder, like I said. I love fun and like skill expressive like PvP. Full any game that's full loot, I'll give it a shot because I love full loot. If a game's hardcore, like I said, like PoE, if their stakes are high, I think high stakes is like the key. Is like the underlying theme of all these
Mm-hmm.
things I'm listing. Is if the stakes are high in a game, you get very invested in it, and when you're very invested in something, you want to just keep doing it.
Yeah.
So like stakes is probably the key. On top of that, having just like a good gameplay is obvious. Like Dark and Darker, for instance, has really fun gameplay, a game loop that you want to keep playing,
Right.
you keep coming back for more, playing hundreds of matches, and you don't get bored. It's
Yep.
honestly, I don't know how they do it because like I play games all the time for hours and I get bored, but I just play the same map in Dark and Darker hundreds of times, and just want to get back in.
Yep.
I don't want to stop.
Yeah, yeah, they definitely have some secret sauce in there. The queue times are an obvious part of that. Like being able to get back in and out so fast is a huge part of that. But just even if it did end up slowing down a little bit, which hopefully it won't, I think that you're right. Just the overall loop, the way that they've set at least the B2 timer for now. Who knows what the B1 timer is going to be, but the B2 timer, it's like it's the perfect amount of time where you have to make choices, different choices every time. So not only do you get to vary in character class if you want to, if you get bored of playing a rogue, you switch over to a wizard's completely different gameplay. And then you go in and you've got your 11 minutes or whatever it is, 13 minutes to get out, and you're not going to be able to hit the whole map. I mean, the map isn't huge, but you have to pick your route based on what objective you have. Are you going for kills? Are you going for loot? How are you going to play and which route are you going to take? But you can't do everything. And that to me was one of the coolest realizations early on. And I obviously was not a top 100, even top 500 player, but once I realized that, hey, I've got to pick my battles, and there's no way I can explore this whole map in this run, then you just start to enjoy the little pieces of the rooms and the hallways, the POIs and hallways that you end up getting to encounter, and you get that much more intimate with the map, I guess. That makes any sense.
No, for sure. Like the more I kept playing Dark and Darker, the more I realized like the your biggest enemy in Dark and Darker is the clock.
Yep.
Like you get into game, you have 10, 11 minutes max to get to the map. And if you're like looking for kills, you're like, how am I going to traverse the map? What's my path? Where's the circle? Can I avoid what mobs can I skip to get to the center to find the players and to get out as fast as possible or go down another level, whatever you're doing.
Right.
But like when you're doing a kill race, like grinding the leaderboard, you're trying to get in, kill as many people as possible,
Mm-hmm.
get out, and reset. And it's fast and snappy. And like towards the end, like I wasn't even looting mobs anymore because I just didn't have time. I was just trying to get in, get kills, get out. Did you play the most recent Tarkov wipe?
No, no. I played last, what? Justin can probably keep me honest here. I think the last time I played was back in July, maybe ish, July or August. Before I found out about Dark and Darker, I don't think I've launched it since Dark and Darker came out. Let's put it that way.
I'm a huge Tarkov fan. Tarkov's one of my favorite games of all time. But going from Tarkov, this most recent wipe, after playing the last Dark and Darker test, it feels so much worse.
Really?
I'm in the stash for 5, 10, 15 minutes getting a kit together,
Yep.
loading out my gun, and then get all the right ammo. Then I get into raid, or I get into loading screen, takes another 10,
Yeah.
15 minutes and just loading into game. Then you get into game, you're running around for 5 minutes, you can't find anybody. And next thing you know, you just get headshot out of nowhere and just fall over. And you're like, man, I could have gotten 3 or 4 really fun and interactive rounds of Dark and Darker in. But
Yep.
instead, I'm playing Tarkov and I just spent an hour doing nothing.
Right.
It
Right.
felt like,
That
feels like it
was
doesn't respect your time.
that was one of my biggest gripes about that game, and I do understand that, you know, they wanted to have a significant learning curve, but I didn't feel like that was one of the aspects of the game that needed to have it. Like the UI or the bullet icons in particular. I may have talked about this in a previous player profile, but like it just drove me nuts trying to manage my inventory, just not only to fit items within the limited amount of space that you have, but also just identify the right ammunition. It just was not intuitive at all. And Tarkov was so brilliant in so many ways. Once you got into a game, if you're not, like you said, getting like cheese one tapped, or if the random hacker hits you and takes out your best set of gear. And hacking wasn't a huge, I don't think compared to other games, at least it wasn't a huge problem, but yeah, it was a lot of effort to get in. Once you got in there, you felt great, but the time in between was too much of a grind for me. So Dark and Darker just scratched every single itch and fixed everything that I hoped Tarkov would have done for a gun-based FPS game.
Yeah, Tarkov is just slow and clunky is the words that come to mind when I think about it. And I think it's been able to get away with it for so long because it was the first game of its genre. It's like the first big game in the looter shooter franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's so big. And it's just been able to ride that train to victory. But now Dark and Darker came along and it really just erased the bar on these kind of games. And Dark and Darker just respects your time so much more than a game like Tarkov. And you get way more gameplay in X amount of hours than you would in Tarkov.
Agreed.
And it's ruining Tarkov for me. I don't even want to play Tarkov anymore. It just ruined it.
Yeah, I've been joking around that I'm uninstalling every game. Like once the early access hits, except for maybe one or two, I'm gonna post a screenshot of my Steam installed games, and it's going to have less than 3. Maybe Rocket League, maybe the Kovacs Aim Trainer, and Dark and Darker, and that's going to be it. I'm getting rid of everything else because I can't foresee myself playing anything else.
Funny enough, I'm in the same boat with you. I'm uninstalling all of my games when Dark and Darker comes out, but for a different reason. I need hard drive space. I've been recording so many clips. It's like hundreds of clips.
Yeah, man.
And I've been filling up hard drives with just footage. At the end of last playtest, I think I looked at all the footage I had in all my different folders just for Dark and Darker, and it was like a total of 850 gigabytes of gameplay. And that's like after it's been refined. After it's been refined, I'm like taking 3-minute shadow play clips. I'm not even like downloading VODs.
Wow.
I just had so many fights just saved. And I had to go through all of them individually. I've been busy the past month.
You gotta let the AI do that, man. You gotta give it to the AI, let it figure it out.
Dude, once there's an AI that could video edit for me, I'm sold. I'm getting it.
It exists. I don't know how good it is. I've watched a couple videos on it, but there are claims that for a modest fee, it was like a subscription of $30 or $40 a month. You upload a bunch of clips, and the AI will it'll at least take out all the dead space. I don't know how well it will be at picking out what it should show in a game like Dark and Darker, but it'll get there, man. That's a whole nother topic of conversation that I should not let us digress to right now. Let me get us back on track.
Yeah, I can go for hours about AI. That stuff is crazy.
How did you find out about the game?
So the original closed alpha tests, the one that only 100 people played, Josh, So Bad Strange, came to me in Discord. It was like, raving about this game. He's like, Nate, there's this new game, Dark and Darker. It's like Dungeons and Dragons meets Darkfall meets Tarkov. You're gonna love this game. And like this is like a common occurrence with Josh. He's like and
you're like, oh sure, yeah.
He's a very optimistic, positive guy, and he like wants every game to be the best. Yep. So I'm like, oh yeah, sure, So Bad. I'll look at it, and I didn't for like a couple hours, and then I saw that Jonah Vale was streaming it on Twitch, and Jonah Vale is like a cynical, negative Nancy. Very, very, very critical about games. He has a very high standard for the games he plays. And he was playing Dark and Darker, and he's like, this game is great. He was having a blast playing it. So I was like, oh, maybe So Bad's onto something. So I requested access for that first closed alpha test. I got in. I got a couple of my friends to play with me, and we grinded that for as long as it was open, and I just fell in love with the game instantly. It was just so much fun. I played every class, hours in each class. It was just such a fun time.
At what point
pleasantly surprised.
At what point did you make the decision to kind of main mage or wizard rather?
It's a good question. I played a little bit of rogue, a little bit of ranger, a little bit of barbarian, and then I really like playing cleric.
Mm-hmm.
Cleric's probably my second favorite class. If I wasn't playing wizard, I would be playing cleric just because it feel like you have the most choices. But then I started playing wizard last because I was like, it looks everyone was telling me it's the weakest. So I was like, I'm going to stay away from it. And I started playing it. And I was like, this is so much more fun than the other classes. I have so many spells.
Mm-hmm.
If anything hits me, I get one shot, which gives me stakes, right? Remember we were talking
More
about stakes
yep.
earlier?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, I have to like play really well to not die. And I like that challenge. And not to mention you have all these spells on top of it, and the shooting fireballs is cool. And I'm just going
Sure.
into lobbies, and I feel like I have tools for any situation, and I have lots of choices. And when you give like a player choices and the ability to outplay their enemy, the gameplay just feels so much better.
Yeah.
And I feel like Wizard has the most compared to other classes anyway.
Completely agree. That it was the last class that I played. So I never played Barb. I don't know why. I've got it in my mind that I will maybe even never play that class. Not sure. But I played every other one. And
Barb
I
is
think
sick.
Wizard was what's that?
So Barb is sick. Barb is really good. People sleep on the Barbarian.
Oh yeah, tons of people love it. I just don't know why. Maybe it goes back to my old D&D days. Maybe there's a campaign that I was in where one of my characters got killed by a barbarian. I don't know, but I feel like in a previous life I was wronged by a barbarian character. But yeah, I never played the Barb, and Wizard I played last because when I first started playing, I mean, I was intimidated by Wizard because I wasn't doing that well with Cleric. I played a lot solo, which Cleric's difficult to do, but even with Fighter, it was like, I'm not getting out as much as I should be. Even though I'm solo, I should be getting out way more, so I'm just going to wait until I'm better at this game to try to play Wizard. And I get halfway through the playtest, I'm like, all right, there's only like 3 or 4 days left. If I'm going to learn Wizard, I need to do it now. And then when I started playing, same exact experience you had. It was like, holy cow, I feel like I have way more choices than I expected to. The skill ceiling is really high. The stakes are higher. And I feel like the versatility of being able to actually cast with a sword is really, really cool. I don't like using it. I'd rather have a spell book, but just to be able to hold a sword while you cast is so freaking cool.
Oh, the Crystal Sword is sweet. I don't think it's good, but it's definitely sweet.
Yeah.
I wish it was more viable, but the spellbook is just so good. It's hard to like not use a spellbook or the crystal ball.
Right.
They're just so much better than the other two. But the Crystal Sword, when you cast Ignite and it's on fire,
Yep.
and you're running around,
It looks
saying
sick.
you're the Lord of Light.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Hell yeah.
But what class do you main in Dark and Darker?
Cleric, I guess, is what I played first, and I mained when I was playing in a group. When I would solo, I probably played Ranger, and I ended up, if I had to tally all of my hours for the last playtest, I would say I probably ended up playing Wizard and Ranger the most overall because I played so much solo. But whenever I was playing with a group, I was like 80% Cleric and maybe 20% Ranger, something like that.
That's fair. It is hard playing Wizard in a group.
Yes.
You have to have like good communication with your team, or you're just gonna murder them. And that definitely happened a bunch. I've definitely killed a lot of my friends, and I don't feel bad about it. It's their fault.
They deserved it. The other thing that I found was that when I was playing Wizard in a group, I felt like because I had a lot of experience playing Cleric, I felt like my role was to sit there and support all of them. So we'd get into a fight and it would be like, okay, I need to haste the Barb first, and then I need to cast whatever other invis. I need to cast invis on our Ranger, and like I just get into support mode instead of being offensively minded, and I think that was difficult for me to overcome as well.
There definitely is a play style where you could be a more supporting wizard. I definitely think if you want to do that, that is totally viable. I don't think it's the best way to play wizard, but if that's how you want to play, I would not mind having a support wizard on my team. Just someone who's constantly hasting, igniting, invising a barbarian, engaging like that. Just, I mean, if you want to use light orb to light the way you can, I mean, that spell kind of sucks. But it's cool to know.
Yeah.
But that like back to like you have so many choices. You could play
Yes.
so many different ways if you're doing wizard. That's why it's so great. I hope they expand on all the classes and just give them more choices. And like hopefully they elevate the ranger and the barbarian and the fighter to be more like the wizard, where you have all these choices instead of just leaving them how they are. Which I think they are going in that direction. But yeah.
Did you agree? So we're really, that's an easy segue into class balance territory here. Josh released a video earlier in the week, I think it was on Monday, for his tier rankings of the various classes, and he put Rogue at the bottom of his list, I think along with Barbarian, actually. Did you agree with that assessment of Rogue being at the bottom?
I think like the list he put out was for solo play. I'm not sure. But if we're just talking about balance in general, I don't think Rogue and Barbarian deserve to be at the bottom. I think it's a lot closer than people think. I think probably the best two classes are the Ranger and the Wizard.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Under that, you probably have Barbarian and Cleric. So I guess Rogue and Fighter probably are at the bottom. But I don't think it's like that big of a disparity amongst all the classes. Because Rogue is like Wizard, where it's hard to play and it's all about positioning well. And if you're not a good Rogue player, you're going to feel a lot worse. Kind of like if you're not a good Wizard player, you're going to get stomped in game. You're a lot more delicate.
Yep.
That's how I'll put it.
Yep. Totally agree. I think you have to be... they're both less forgiving. Not only do you have to make good tactical and strategic decisions in your play, but I think you need to have more micro skills for both of those classes as well. I think there's more margin of error for swinging a sword at someone than there is casting a spell across the room, especially if it's, fireball that you're trying to target two people at once. And if you don't hit it, it's your last fireball. If you don't hit it, one of those two enemies is coming to take your head, right? Like those kind of decisions you have to be thinking about as a wizard. Rogue, the second that you come out of hiding, if you don't get the drop on them right away, yeah, maybe you can run because you're fast, but you might run right into the next room where there's another team. You might run into some PvE. Like those are all things that I think the average player, or especially a new player, doesn't want to have to think about, and it's so unforgiving.
Yeah, so back to the point, I guess Rogue would probably be towards the bottom, at least this playtest, or the most recent playtest. It was definitely stronger during playtest 2 and playtest 1 before the rapier nerfs. But the rapier nerfs
that
really...
was huge. Yep, that was huge.
Yeah. I remember YOLO Rage from the Elite Discord was pages of him raging about the nerfs. It was so funny. And every time he says something like smart or toxic in chat, I just link him a picture of a rapier and a sad face.
So you guys are both, speaking of YOLO, you guys are all part of the Elite Discord, which Josh talked about a couple episodes ago. What's the chatter like in there these days? Is it starting to ramp back up now that we're this close to the next playtest?
Oh yeah, it's starting to pick up. I mean, most of the time it's just you take the top 100 players from Dark and Dark and you put them into one Discord. You're just going to get a bunch of people clashing egos and talking smack and being toxic. But every once in a while, there's like a productive conversation that happens about game balance or about the state of the game or people's concerns about hackers. So every once in a while, there's like a good conversation that happens, but most of the time it's just really toxic Europeans yelling at each other.
So who's the peacemaker in there? I don't want to call out all the toxic people, but who's the peacemaker or peacemakers?
Josh is one of the he's a nice guy. He trolls too. Don't get it twisted. But I try to be nice most of the time. But it's hard to not want to be toxic when everyone's doing it, and everyone does it like jokingly. There's no actual bad intent. It's just a bunch of people having a good time, a lot of banter. But now since Dark and Dark is so close, the conversation is starting to pick up. We've been talking about balance. We've been talking about the high roller queues, like things we want to see them change. We've been talking about potentially the B1 level and the cave troll. So we're just all getting really excited, and we're licking our lips. Just can't wait to get back in.
Right on. Speaking of the cave troll, did you guys check in with Grayson or any of the other devs to ask them if they were surprised how quickly that riddle was solved? Did we get any feedback?
See, I didn't follow the event too closely. I saw it when it was posted. I looked at it. I didn't know what it meant. I was confused.
Oh, I had no idea. I had no clue.
I'm just dumb. I'm like, I guess that's a good riddle then if it fooled me. But a lot of people figured it out quickly too, and it was cool. It was cool that they do events like that. Iron Mace is really, they've been on the ball. They've been developing their game super well. They've been communicating with their community. They've been just releasing stuff fast and efficiently, being very transparent. I'm such a huge fan of Iron Mace as a company.
Yep.
Because I've played so many games over the years, and I've seen such good ideas for games just get thrown in the toilet because a game company doesn't know how to run their company.
Yep.
And Iron Mace is just a breath of fresh air.
Yep.
When it comes to development.
Completely agree. I was hoping at this point, after the little cave troll scavenger hunt, I guess is probably a more accurate description of what it ended up being. I was hoping that there were going to be subsequent drops and hints along the way. Now it's Wednesday. That was on Sunday, right? If I'm remembering correctly, I think that was around 11 a.m.
So.
Haven't heard anything else. Although they did announce the updated list of troubadours. I'm going to do a shameless plug. As of today, I'm part of that list. So congratulations to me. Golf clap. Thank you very much. Yeah, but I was hoping for more hints. But maybe this one peg interview that's I think just starting up here. Maybe they'll drop a hint or two in that interview that can get our juices flowing for the remainder of the week.
Yeah.
I thought Grayson is... What's that?
So hopefully they give us the sauce on that. Let us know what's going on. I'm so excited to see what they have to say.
Yeah, me too, man. Yeah, if at some point we want to try to tune in, like I said, we can watch Jay watching one peg, flip over to the other view.
That'd be funny. I love Jay. Jay's a good dude.
Oh, he's a blast, man. I was so very fortunate that he agreed to do that first interview. That was really cool of him to do that.
Yeah, if someone was going to take Rank 1 Wizard away from me, I'm glad it was a nice guy like Jay.
Yeah.
But we'll take it back from this next test.
I like it. I like the competitiveness, man. I can't wait to see the chatter once the week starts, because I've got the week off work. I'm ready to go. I'm going to be doing nothing but this, like at least 14 hours a day. I got a wife and kid, but they both know like this week it's off limits for like any plans whatsoever. So I'm geeked, man. I cannot wait. Do you have a health and fitness plan that you're going to implement for this week to keep yourself awake?
Last playtest, it got pretty rough towards like the end of the playtest. So I was grinding so much, I couldn't stream like the last day because I was gross. I was just covered in gamer grease. I wasn't eating right. I was trying so hard to catch up to Jay because that last day of the playtest 3, I logged in. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna end number 2. I'm okay with number 2. I'm content. I'm like 180 kills down. I'm gonna be fine with number 2. I'm cool. But then I woke up that morning. I was like, I don't want to be number 2. I want to be number 1. I really do. I'm 180 kills down. I FaceTimed my real friend Brian. He's my cleric friend. He's like my duo partner. I'm like, get on now. We're crushing this. And he got on in like 30 minutes, and we started grinding. And I think we grinded like 35 lobbies in a row where we didn't die. We just crushed it.
Oh my gosh.
We had like 120 kills in like 3 hours. And I was closing the gap on Jay. I was like 60 behind Jay. And then he logs in and he gets back on stream, and he has a little bit of panic on his face. He's like, I went to bed last night. I was 200 kills up. I thought I was safe. And Kanabi, he's gaining up on me. And he got back on. He got back in queue. And he just started grinding. And he's grinding, getting like 7 kills, 8 kills a game. Like really, really making it hard. But still somehow I'm just closing the gap little by little.
Yep.
And we have like 2 hours left in the playtest. I'm like 20 kills down. And I get into this raid, and I have a big raid, like a big 10 kill raid, and then Jay dies in his raid. So he's a big fat 0. And I'm like,
do you have his
like
stream up while you're playing? Did you actually have
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I was in his chat. I was egging him on, telling him, I'm gaining on you. I'm catching up, Jay. I'm like, I'm turning the heat. You better keep up. And it was actually a lot of fun. That last day was so much fun.
That's
like,
awesome.
Jay's a good sport. He's a good sport. He wasn't toxic at all about it. He was just super nice and like very genuine.
Yeah.
It was a really fun race. The chat was getting involved. They're like, let's go, Ken. And some were like, screw you, Ken. Jay's the real king. It was a good time. It was a real good time. But what did I rant? Oh, we were talking about like hygiene and fitness. Yeah, the last day I was just sweaty and like tank top in my underwear, just eating takeout, Domino's, Mountain Dew. It was. If the playtest went any longer, I probably would have died of a heart attack or something. That was miserable.
How many hours?
It was fun.
How many hours do you think you got in total? Do you have a pretty good account?
It has to be like probably average 16 hours a day. Probably.
Whew.
But I wasn't playing high roll the entire time. I was playing a lot with my friends, and I was uploading a video every day. So I was also editing videos and recording and streaming, and just kind of having a good time. But that last stretch when I was like, I want to be number one, that's when I took off the weights and just tried to go for it.
Yeah.
Couldn't get there. But it was a blast. And I'm so excited for this next test. It's gonna be lit. Do you know if have they confirmed if B1's coming out this playtest?
No, not that I'm aware of, at least. We could maybe answer that question if you want to switch over. We can do a quick little intermission here.
How do you feel about B1 though in general? Just as a concept, do you think it's a good idea?
I am 90% positive about it. I think if they do the number that they've proposed, that everyone's talking about, between that 30 and 35 range of players, I think going to necessitate the map being about double the size if everything's to scale, right? So you've got a map that's twice the size. What I'm thinking now, after the cave troll announcement, I'm thinking now it might be a network of caves, and maybe some of them are like open air so you can see the forest. Maybe that's how they kind of merge those two ideas. They've mentioned forest in the past, and now a cave troll. So maybe network of caves with some open air where you can see trees, and you could call that forester caves, right? Jay was pointing out on his stream earlier, like some of the images that are in the press kit pack. There's one where it's like the castle. So maybe you're right outside the castle, and then we're going into maybe B2 is just, then the next floor down from that. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe the portals are actually taking you up instead of down. We've been saying down, the down portal the whole time. They could flip the script on us and maybe you're actually going up. I don't know. But I think the B1 idea is it's awesome, and it's a complete game changer. I have no idea how much it's going to impact the meta. What do you think about it? What are your thoughts?
I'm excited for B1 conceptually. Like, I like the idea of getting more players in one map, more action, more fighting. That's always good for gameplay and dopamine and player enjoyment. But I have some concerns with B1, or just their tier system in general. I feel like if B1 releases and we have 32 players all fighting, you're not going to get anybody in B2, and because everyone's going to be dead by the time they get to the portals, and then you're really going to have nobody in B3. So I'm worried that it's going to kind of kill the dungeon aspect of Dark and Darker.
It could. I'm with you. Yeah, it just depends on how many people have that, and I'm sure they have such good data that they've released to us, which means I would assume that means there's a lot more that they're not sharing that they know about the game at this point. What percentage of the overall gamer population for Dark and Darker is really trying to grind for kills, and how many people are the more casual gamers that are just wanting to go in there and fight the PvE and get down to the next level and try to not die. I don't know how that breaks out. I know normally, especially in a full loot game, it's higher than any other type of game for people that are going for kills, but I still don't know if it's, is that 30% of all people? Is it 40? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure what the exact number is, but I think like a solution they could implement, I'm not sure if they want to do this or not, but let's say you start B1, you play your match out, all 32 players, and then you get to the end and you go through the red portal to go down. What I think it should do in theory is just put you into a separate queue, for a separate B2 queue, and queue you with 16 other players or 15 other, whatever the number is, that have also went down a level from other
queues. I see. Yeah, it doesn't have to be from the same lobby. Right.
So at least you're getting into a full lobby in B2, and then you can go even further into B3.
I dig that. Yeah.
And an 8-man lobby for B3, because then you're gonna have at least full maps for each tier.
Yeah.
So like you're getting
I love that
crazy
idea.
amounts of gameplay.
Yeah.
I hope they go with that route, because I feel like there's already a problem with I don't have any incentive to go to B3 3 or the Inferno right now.
Right.
As someone who wants to PvP, unless I want to grind mobs. But if I want to like fight players, there's no reason for me to go down there. So I always take blue portals.
Yep.
So maybe that's something they could think about doing. I'm not sure if that's a good idea or not, but
I like the idea.
About.
What do you think about spawning portals earlier? I'd kind of floated this idea past Aaron in episode 3. I thought letting the red portals, I think I said blue errantly in that episode, by the way, but what I meant to say was they should allow the red portals to spawn pretty early so the people that do want to go down to B2 can get in there. And then if you combine that with the idea that you just had, I think that works out really well because it thins out that lobby really quick with people that could decide to be going down to B2 with another potential full group.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. We were actually talking about this in the Elite Discord the other day, just like solutions to this problem, because it feels like, especially in high roller lobbies, a lot of the players play a lot smarter, and they like play on the outside of the circle until like the very end, and then towards the very end of the lobby, you have like 3 or 4 teams just fighting in the last minute. And sure, maybe you're the team who wins, but you have a minute left, 30 seconds left. You have no time to loot.
Right.
You're like scrambling for portals. You're like, I just won this sick fight, and I'm gonna die to the zone.
You're getting nothing.
This feels so bad.
Yep.
And we're like, how can we fix this problem? Like, what can Iron Mace do to make this better? And like a couple of suggestions where I think my suggestion was like, so say every time you get a kill in game, the clock goes up by 10 seconds. So like say everybody is like waiting towards the end and they fight, and say there's a 3-way fight and 9 people die.
Yeah.
It could be 90 seconds, or it could be 5 seconds, it could be 45 seconds, whatever the number is, you can figure that out.
Right.
That was like one idea. That might be a good idea or not. Or another idea somebody suggested was in like that final circle, that final like 10-second tiny little circle that you're all squeezed into. They put like a 3-man blue portal or a 3-man red portal just at the very end. So if you're the last squad alive, you're getting out guaranteed.
Right.
Instead of scrambling for a portal. I'm not sure if that's a good idea or not, but these are some things we were talking about that could be solutions. I'm not sure what Iron Mace wants to do, if that's the direction they want to go, but they're just some things to think about.
What are some of your tips for new players and experienced players both? Just
play what's fun. That's what I do. Just play what's fun and get good at what you want to get good at. Don't play something just because you think it's strong or because it's the meta. Because like that's not a way to play the game. Just do what makes you happy. Have as much fun as possible and just keep doing it. But for newer players, I do have a Wizard School comprehensive Wizard Guide series coming out later this week. That's going to be full of tons of tips and tricks that make you a good wizard player if that's what you want to play. But besides that, I mean, it's hard. Dark and Darker is such a unique game, and there's so many different things you could do that giving just tips is hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Oh, God, I can't wait. I'm so excited. I'm just talking about it. I'm like, oh, I want to play.
I know, man. Every time I've done one of these, I start to get the itch again, and I feel like I'm light on dopamine.
My only concern for Dark and Darker, at least right now, is probably going to be like that. The only thing that could probably stop Dark and Darker in its tracks and really ruin it is if it gets like infested with hackers.
Yeah, I agree.
Which it could do. I think that ruined the cycle. It is currently ruining Tarkov. Like, it's bad in Tarkov right now. And even last playtest, I ran into a couple of hackers. Like, not too many, but enough to where I was like, oh, this could be a problem if it gets much worse.
So did they have a way
addresses it
with Tarkov? So it surprises me to hear that with Tarkov, because it's behind a paywall, and it's not a minuscule paywall. It's like minimum what, $40 or $60 to get the base copy, and then you can upgrade for the bigger butt essentially in that game. How do people get do they just keep generating new keys, or are they just undetectable hacks?
So we were actually talking about this in the Elite Discord again the other day. Another productive conversation that happened, surprisingly, is that most of the people that are cheating in Tarkov are real traders, RMTers, selling stuff on player auctions. So as long as they could buy a $50 account, get in and play for 48 hours, 68 hours, however many hours it takes to generate that revenue back.
Right. The ROI is good enough, right?
Yeah, it's profitable for them to keep doing it.
Yep.
So that's why I never thought putting the game behind a paywall will fix that, unless like your paywall is so high to the point where you're kicking them out of the game before they make back their money.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's
and
got such a sophisticated operation, though. You can't keep using the same credit cards. You got to generate different credit cards. Maybe you're getting a bunch of prepaid cards to pull that off. You've got to make up different
PayPal accounts,
identities, right?
VPNs.
Like, that's a lot of freaking effort. But like you said, if it's worth it, I guess they can do it.
Well, for a lot of people, this is like their way of making a living. Like people that certain countries, third world countries, like that. Like this is a very sustainable way to make a quick buck. Like they're paying the rent
Right.
by shooting people in Tarkov and
Yep.
flying around selling loot. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how they could fix the problem because Tarkov can't fix it. Literally, the cycle got deleted by hackers. That game doesn't exist anymore because hackers just were half the player base.
Yeah. I played in the end of season 1, and for a while at the beginning of season 2. It was all I played for like a month, maybe 2 months straight. All I played was Cycle. And I really liked the game, but when season 3 hit, I think they got a renewed hacker base to come back, even though they had implemented a lot of really cool ideas. Like they had the trusted queues. They had a couple other things that they were doing to really try to minimize hacking, in addition to like Battle Eye. So they had Battle Eye, they had trusted queues, and then they made the questing system. They made access to certain maps only available once you went through a certain amount of quests. So the idea was that between all three of those things, if you were a genuine, legit player and you put in your time and effort and you're able to get to the later maps, the likelihood that you're going to run into a cheater while you're out there risking your best gear was much less, which I thought was good, but apparently still people
It's not enough.
ruined it. Yeah.
I don't know what like hacking is becoming a problem in every game. It's just getting worse and worse in every game I play, and I don't know the solution. Like usually I could like come up with theoretical solutions that might work, but the hacking issue is just getting so bad unless you're doing like a very invasive anti-cheat
Right.
like Valorant has, where it's like going to the kernels of your system and like tracking you that way, which you don't want to trust small indie companies with that kind of power. Valorant can do it because it's Riot Games and they're like a AAA global brand. But as much as I love Iron Mace, I don't want them in my system like that. I don't know what they're up to.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. 100%.
In Korea, what they do is to have a ranked League of Legends account, you have to sign up with like your driver's license and like your ID. So if you ever get like banned for cheating in one of those countries, like you're banned for life. You can't play again, kind of thing.
Yep.
I'm not sure if you could do that with these kind of games, or like I said, it's the same problem. You might not want to trust certain companies with this kind of information.
Yeah.
Just to play video games. So I'm not sure what the solution is.
Well, they have third parties. So crypto sites actually did that kind of IDing for certain exchanges a while back where
KCI, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. KYC, you got it. That's that was a really big deal. And I wonder if maybe that's a great call out. I didn't even think about that. If gaming companies will eventually kind of go that route where when you register a new copy, a licensed copy of a game, you're literally required to get on camera, hold up your ID next to your face. That gets scanned in by the third party, and it would force the hacker then to completely manipulate, which I'm sure they would go to those lengths, right? They'd use really high-end video editing software so they could change their face, change the ID, change the whole identity. But the idea with the third party is that they're actually trying to validate that that's a real person. So it would at least it would hinder them a little bit. It would make it way more difficult than it is now. And maybe that's the best we can do is just get a little bit better.
And that might be the future of gaming, because this hacking is just becoming a problem in every game. It's not just Tarkov, not just Dark and Darker. It's any game that has a competitive ladder or where you can make a quick buck doing RMT.
Right.
It's too lucrative for people to not want to try and hack.
Well, somebody had floated that idea. Maybe it was in the Spud Hunter video, saying that the only thing that he could think of is that you make it illegal to sell any kind of gaming accounts or gaming assets, currencies, etc. Which I don't want that happening either, because that's a slippery slope for other reasons. Like, hey, you don't want to limit what people are and are not allowed to sell.
Especially when it's something not like he's not like malicious, and like there's probably people just it's not like it's a bad thing to do to sell things on a video game if it's allowed.
Yeah.
It's the means that these players are going to in the game to get these items. That's the problem. So unless like anti-cheat comes, gets more advanced, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what to do. Do you run into any hackers in your last playtest?
no, not a lot, but I don't know that. Well, one, I wasn't recording. There were a couple times where I was like, man, this is suspect, but I mean, the game is still obviously very, very young and pre-alpha basically. So it's without having the benefit of replay and a video to go back to. More often than not, I just assumed it was a bug. There was definitely one example where Skeletal Archer was glitched into a wall completely and then was still shooting arrows at me. So I just walked down a hallway and I'm just getting hit with arrows in the face coming right at me.
Oh, that's miserable.
From a wall. And that was pretty entertaining. I thought it was somebody else hacking, but then it was like, okay, I'm going to sit here and watch this. And it was at such a regular interval, it became obvious it was a PvE and not another player. But
yeah, it's a bug. That sounds funny though.
What about you? Did you capture any footage of getting nailed by?
Yeah, I recorded a couple. I definitely ran into like I think four blatant cheaters, like 4 different situations where there are people just blatantly aimbotting, and all of them ranges. By the way, ranges. They would just instantly triple shot all 3 of their arrows in 1 second, and all 3 headshots. Just aimbot, very obvious. And then I would spectate them for the rest of the match and watch them do it to other people. I'm like, oh, you're just no shame. Not even trying to hide it.
I've seen that, and I've seen it where they have no cooldown, where they can just triple shot.
Yep, exactly. And then I saw some footage, not from my perspective, but there's like obviously some ESP hacks where people could just see through walls and see where all the loot is, kind of like a Tarkov ESP. But it's hard to tell when people are doing that. You can't really tell from your perspective as a player if someone's doing that to you.
Mm-hmm.
You just accuse them, but I don't like accusating people. Accusing. but yeah, just the aimbot's the one that I'm worried about. I don't even care if you ESP. I don't care if you can see me. Come fight me. That's fine. Whatever gets you to me faster. But the aimbot, that ruins the game.
Yeah.
What are you maining next playtest? You gonna stay with the cleric?
Well, that depends. So as of right now, if nothing was to change, I would start wizard, and then I'd go ranger second. But if I'm at all going to try to actually chase for kills just to see how it goes for day 1 and see how far off I am, then I would 100% use wizard or rogue. Ranger would be my third pick if I was going for kills.
Do you plan on trying to grind
for a little bit? I'd love to do it for a few hours, completely focused solo, to see how far off I am from the rest of you guys. Like how at 12 o'clock noon on day 1, you and Jay are going to be probably well into the, close to 100, 200 potentially at that point.
You'd be surprised. That day 1 is hard because no one's queuing for high roller. Like I remember just sitting in queue for
true.
5 minutes and getting like 2 people in my lobby. I'm like, oh, I should just be playing normals for the first day. And then maybe day 2, more people are queuing.
Yep. Well, see
that. How do you feel about the high roller system? Like
I didn't go. I love it actually, but I didn't go until the second to last day of the playtest. I never even entered it. Didn't care to. I was just having so much fun playing normals with all different character classes, and I was playing with a bunch of different friends. I was trying to get guys from work to come and play with me, and it was just like every day I'm teaching someone new how to play the game. So all we did was play normals.
Mm-hmm.
When I did play it, I loved it.
That's cool. So, I have a love-hate relationship with the high roller. I like that it's a separate queue that the better players or the more confident players are queuing into. But I don't like that it's behind like a 70 gold paywall. I think
it should be less.
It's not the amount that's the problem. It's just when you're putting your competitive structure, the leaderboard system behind a paywall, it kind of dilutes the competitiveness of it. Because all of a sudden now I need gold to queue for ranked in a sense. I'm not sure if I'm being like a baby about it. So I have plenty of gold I can queue for infinitely, but it just feels a little weird. I feel like if it should just be a separate queue, I can queue for high roller if I want. It could be free. Maybe you have to just be level 20 requirement, or
I
there
could
could
see
be
a
a
level
minimum gear requirement.
Yeah,
Because the
I
whole
could
point of it
see-
is to separate new players and vet players. I think that's the point of high roller, right? I think.
Well, I like that. So yes, and yes, but yes, and I think if you did the level cap and said that once you get to level 20, you get half off high roller,
That works too.
right?
Mhm.
Something like that I think could work. I enjoy the fact that you definitely have something to you have more to lose every time you go, because I mean, what's the max amount of gold that you can hold in your inventory? Is it like 3,000 something at least for now?
In your inventory or your bank?
Inventory.
Inventory might be like 3K, yeah, something like that. I know your bank is like 15, and I think your stash is like 5 of your inventories.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So the max you could hold in your inventory would be like 3K. Max you could hold in your stash would be like 15K. But realistically, most people aren't going to hoard more than I would imagine 5K. Good items become more important than gold to players that are, trying for any kind of leaderboard. Doesn't matter what it is. So the idea that the gold still matters enough, even when you have a bunch of it, and even if you don't have a whole lot, you have to continually prove yourself. I guess that's what I'm getting at. I'm doing a very poor job of explaining it, but you can go up to high roller. It's not so much gold that it takes forever. You could go normal for one run, and you could have enough to go high roller. Right, one decent run easily makes 70 gold. You jump into high roller, and if it doesn't work out, you go back to normal. Then all you need is one more good run. You can go back to high roller again. And you could just stay in normal. Maybe you want to roll 3 or 4 normals in a row to build up a little bit of a buffer. Now you got 1,000, 500,000 gold. Then you can run multiple high rollers. If you have a couple bad beats, you don't have to go back. I think it's fair. I think it's pretty balanced, but I do think having the level combination to get half off and or dynamic pricing based on high roller lobbies being not full, then you lower the cost of high roller lobby to incentivize people to get in.
How do you feel about maybe if they did a gear score system instead of you're paying 75 to enter? How about your group has to have an average gear score of X, and then you can queue for high roller?
I don't know. How do you feel about that? I don't like the sound of it.
If I was talking about it, said I'm not 100% sold on this. I'm not gonna die on this hill, but it was just a fun thought that let's say like whites and gray gear, there's a big 0 on the gear score level, but greens are 1 point, blues are 2 points, epics 3, legendaries 4, and let's just say you need to have an average gear score of your party of just a 1, just a green. So whether it could be everyone in your party is wearing greens, that's good, or maybe just one guy's wearing epics and the rest of the guys could be wearing garbage for all I care. But just because the problem was people were paying for high roller, but they were still going in naked, and I would be killing people. And I'm like, I'm in high roller, but you guys are in full grays. This feels bad. I'm risking like this really good gear set, and I'm killing you guys, and I'm not getting anything.
I was one of those people.
That's the main goal, but it's just something to think about.
Hey, I was one of those people. I was going into high roller with whites and maybe one green occasionally, but I went in with all grays and had success doing it too. That was the other cool thing. I felt like you didn't need that much more. Like if you could pay your ante to get in, then you could run around and try to avoid fights and get out with some really good gear. And maybe make some extra money, and then the next time, it's the risk reward. I felt like was worth it because the loot was that much better in high roller. Like it was crazy good after playing normals for 5 days in a row and then going to high roller. It was like, oh wow, this is way different quality of loot.
That's another thing I love about Dark and Darker. Like gear helps, right? Gear is obviously very important, but it's not the end all be all. Like if I'm not wearing good gear and I'm facing against somebody who is wearing good gear, I still have options. I can still outplay them or beat them, even though they're wearing the best stuff. And then when you do make one of those good plays and you're in grays and you kill a guy wearing epics or legendaries, you're like, oh, what a dopamine rush. That's why I love full loot games. Full loot games are just so much more fun than other games. It's crazy.
I'm with you, man. Dude, I really appreciate you hanging out. You mentioned the Wizard series that you have coming up. What is the title of that again?
Wizard School.
Wizard School. Yes. Are you going to have a Harry Potter theme along with that?
I mean, it's kind of the vibe we got going on.
All right.
But we're not trying to rip off Harry Potter by any means. That'd be bad. Don't want that copyright.
Not
Hogwarts.
off. Inspired by.
There we go. Yes, just like Dungeons and Dragons is inspiring Dark and Darker. Yeah.
Right.
I see.
Absolutely. Magic the Gathering, every fantasy thing ever is all inspired by Tolkien ultimately. So I mean, we can
True.
That's yeah, man, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for joining. I think we'll be chatting a lot more. I'll be curious to check in with you hopefully during the next play test, even if it's definitely not going to be a player profile type setup. But at one point, I'd love to get everybody together that's done one of these so far. Maybe even midweek if you guys want like a 15-20 minute break from the grind, and just do a quick roundtable discussion about how you feel everything's going, how the new balance changes or updates are affecting the playtest. If we're able to do that, and if that doesn't work out, I definitely want to do a group therapy session after the next playtest ends. That's for sure.
Both of those sound great. So if you ever want to do that, just let me know. It was a pleasure meeting you. Thank you for having me. This has been very fun. You made it very welcoming and easy to talk. I was a little nervous at first, but you're a great host, and I appreciate it.
Right on, man. Well, I appreciate that, and looking forward to doing more of these in the future. Thanks for everybody in the chat. Yeah. You guys have a good one. We'll see you in the dungeon here come Monday morning. Adios.
Peace.